Hey, how's it going, everyone? Justin again, as always. Thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. Today I'm with my dad. We're at his shop here in down the low desert, so that's kind of a nice little change of weather. 10 degrees warmer than it is where I'm living, so the welding jacket's heating up pretty quick. All right, that being said, today we're kind of doing a David versus Goliath, pro use versus home use welder comparison between the titanium MIG170 and the Miller 211. We're also going to be trying out these new Lincoln no-mix welding gloves. I just picked these up from Home Depot for 20 bucks. Going to see how they hold up in this video. All right, I'm going to introduce my dad, known as the Home Handyman. He's going to kind of walk you through what it is that we're exactly going to be setting up and comparing exactly here between the two welders. Dad?
Okay, so Justin's got his titanium and we're going to hook it up to 110. This is his gun, obviously, because we're setting his up first, and we'll get some scrap metal. So he's got 110 flux cord, and he's going to run a small bead, and then we're going to shut everything off, and then I'm going to hook it up to 220. Then he's going to run another bead, and then Justin will tell you what he feels the differences are that he noticed when he made that jump from 110 to 220. Now remember, he's using flux cord. He's not going to be set up for gas today, so when we switch over to mine, and he's going to use mine also, not just his, so he'll be able to do a comparison and get an idea, not just between both welders, but between 220 solid core with gas, or in his mind, he knows what his titanium can do with flux cord 110, flux cord 220, so he'll have several comparisons to think about and share his thoughts with you when we get towards the end of this. But again, it's Harbor Freight. They're up in their game. I mean, from what I see, this is on the appearance. I looked it over just a little bit ago. He's got 030. I got 030 on mine. I have solid cord. He's got flux cord. But back to Harbor Freight for a minute. It's like I've always said, not everything out there is junk. This appears to be a really well-made welder. I mean, actually. So how is it going to perform? That's what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn this back over to Justin, and when he's ready in a second, we got some scrap steel set up. I have it weld prepped. I use my 4.5-inch angle grinder with a 60 grit wheel on there, and I just cleaned the metal up to make it super clean and get it ready. And then we'll talk about, if you watch the past couple of videos, how I apply my grounding clamps, and you're going to see I use the same tips. So go back and watch the other one if you just want a few tips on how to improve your welding. But I'm going to stop talking, turn it over to him, and we'll get started here in just a sec.
All right, so before we get started, another thing that we're going to do is I'm going to have my dad actually try out the titanium flux core just to kind of see how he feels about it. Not just looking at the types of welds that I do, but so he can actually get a feel for it as well and get a more of a solid opinion as far as what he thinks of the product. I'm also going to let him try out my Matco auto darkening welding hood, and he'll give his own comparison in another video later on between that welding hood and the Lincoln one that he's been using for years, and we'll just see how today goes. That being said, let's get the welders fired up and set up. We'll bring you into the action, and what do you think we should start off with first? Titanium flux core and go with 110?
We're going to do titanium flux cord with 110. That's what we'll do right now.
Cool. So, stick around. Alright, so right now for my settings for the MIG170, I've got the wire speed set to 4.5. I've got the, I guess we call it voltage, set to 4.5. And there's another knob that's supposed to help smooth out your weld or what have you. I don't know exactly what that's for. I got that set to 5. So we'll just see how smooth it comes out. Right now running 030 flux core on the 110 titanium MIG170. So we'll take a closer look here, and then you guys can see how this one came out, and then we'll change the settings over and go to 220 and see how that came out. Alright, so here it is, just for you guys to see. I don't know if you can see it too well. That's 110 030 flux core. And like I said, I think it has good penetration. We'll just see how it comes out with 220 and we'll go from there.
All Or you?
All right, so getting ready to switch over to the 220. I don't have the instruction book with me. I wish I did, but if I'm not mistaken, this is how I think it's set up. So we're gonna remove the positive cable feed here and the ground cable feed here. We have to reverse the polarity. So I'm gonna switch that one over here. I'm now gonna take the ground clamp and I'm putting it over here. Now that the polarity is switched with the cables, we have to go into the back of the machine. And as you can see, there's a knob down here that we have to move over to 240 before we can power it on. We'll give that a second to power on. And you can see that we got some differences as far as our volts is concerned. And let's just see how well it does. All right, so I'm gonna nip the tip here. And now we're set up on the 220. So what I'm gonna do now is with the same exact settings that I already had before on 110, we're going 220 with the welder to see how well it performs and how much different the welds either are or are not. Alright, so there's the weld difference between the 110 and the 220. You can see there's a bit more spatter than I had previous with the 110, but that's a setting issue. That's something that I'm going to actually physically have to adjust and play with. Now as far as penetration, if you were to roll it over, you'll see there's a lot more bluing, or the bluing circle is a lot bigger in diameter than the 110, which means more penetration. So it's going to hold up a lot longer. Now, we could do a hammer test and beat the hell out of this thing, but overall I think 220 is going to hold up a lot stronger. I just got to get better with the settings. But look, I'm not a professional welder. So those of you that have comments about this, if you see something I'm doing wrong, please feel free to share it down in the comments. Alright, so now we're going to move over to the Miller 211 and we're going to use MIG gas and see how that compares to the welds that I did with the FLUX core titanium MIG170. That being said, let me get things set up and we'll just see how it comes out. Alright, so now we're set up on the Miller 211 and I'm on 220 MIG gas. I'm going to see and compare the welds that we have with that between what we got from our 030 FLUX core titanium. Alright, let's run it. Whoa! God damn! Night and day. Night and day. Okay, let me just shut up and show you. Holy crap! Look at that! Holy crap, man! Night and freaking day. MIG gas compared to FLUX core. And that's 220 MIG gas, and we even, oh, just Jesus, look at that weld. I'm not a professional welder. That is pretty. That is pretty. All right.
All right, everybody. So what you just saw is, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Shut it off for this right now. All right, everybody. So what you just saw is Justin actually demoed both machines. Now remember, his was flux cord 110. And then it was flux cord with 220, and he felt the differences. And then we went over to mine using shielded gas and solid core. Actually, I used Lincoln Super Arc on this so he could see the difference in the wires too. Nothing wrong with buying cheaper wire if you're just doing, you know, hobbies and stuff like that. If you're going to do anything structural, I always opt for the better wire nowadays. I don't go with cheap wire anymore. I buy mine out at Airgas. That's where I get a lot of my welding stuff, specialty stuff that the big boxes don't carry. So remember, now when we did this, there was a little bit of weld prepping involved. I mean, I took my 4.5-inch angle grinder, I cleaned up the metal, and we went ahead and we welded to it. And remember, the grounding clamp with the cable facing down, coming down through the project or down through the table, it gives you better conductivity. Now, I said that over the past 2 videos, and I know I'm repeating myself, but that's the way that it is. And so other people can remember to do the same thing. Now, the other thing is, and I'll pan down in a minute and show you, on my welding table, I use that 4.5-inch angle grinder and I grind a shiny spot. Sometimes I'm grounding to the table itself, and I'm not grounding necessarily to the project. If you can ground to the project, of course, it's a lot better to do that, again, because that's where you're going to get the best conductivity. But if you can't, there's nothing wrong with grounding to the table itself, but I like to get the surface real clean, like almost like weld prepping, and then I go from there with it. So you saw the differences here in the machines. Now, in a second,
big difference.
Yeah, there was a big difference. I mean, you know, so machines are more than adequate. It just depends on what you're going to do with it. It's up to you. I mean, and I've done a couple of videos where I've gone with friends of mine where they've gotten, you know, used machines off of Craigslist. Just be careful what you're buying and make sure somebody's there to demo the thing with you and you're not buying somebody else's problems. Okay. So I remember on the one instance where he got a really good deal on the welder because the guy that had it in the shop, lots and lots of people are using it. And when you take this MIG gun at first and you clean that tip out like I showed, or you change the tip, like I showed you in my last video, and you clean out that shield, it makes a big difference. Okay, and on the one that he bought, the guy just thought, well, the machine's getting older and it's acting up, and he didn't want to deal with it anymore because he really saw that nice shiny new machine he wanted, so he bought it, sold this one to the friend of mine cheaply. We went back to his place, I changed the tips, we cleaned the shield, the thing works beautifully. So lots of good deals out there, you just got to be careful what you're buying. I'm going to turn it back over to Justin and we're going to wrap up
not yet.
This one part of the video. Justin's going to share something else with you. And then we need to spend a few minutes, him and I've got to switch tanks around because I'm going to send him home now, now that he knows the difference. Anybody that's went out and got these tanks knows that you got to buy them. This way he doesn't have to buy it. I'm going to send him home with it and he can hook it up. Anyway, I'm going to turn it back over to him and quit rattling.
Don't leave just yet. Don't leave just yet. Alright, so before we finish today's video of David versus Goliath, home use versus pro use, I'm going to have my dad, we're going to fire up the titanium MIG170. He's going to give it a shot. Now, he's been using the Miller 211 for a long time and hasn't used any of the, well, I guess we'd call them sub-models or least expensive models. He hasn't tried an inexpensive brand at this point, so I thought it would be nice to get his overall opinion of it. So I'm going to actually have him fire up the MIG170. He's going to use it with the Matco welding hood and give his overall thoughts as far as how he feels it can weld.
There's one more thing I'm going to add before we do that, before we switch over. I didn't discuss the settings on this Millermatic 211. Okay, now what I did, one of the dials, the auto set part of this, you have a dial, it says dial it to the thickness of the material. Okay, and that's what I did. And so I put it to about between 3/16 and a quarter, and then I turned around and I told the machine by another knob, I'm using 030 wire. That's it. The machine has a built-in internal mechanism where it auto adjusts. That's where you get the auto set from. Now, is it accurate? Yeah, it is. It is damn accurate. But if I wanted to, with those same knobs, I can make it burn hotter, or if I think it's burning a little too hot, I can tweak it a little bit down. These are fine-tuning adjustments, but for this video, I went strictly off the auto set because I know somebody's going to ask that question. Using regular mid-gas, using solid cord 030 wire, and that was it. And then weld prepping and doing the same basic steps I showed you or taught you in the last video, if you remember, how to attach your welding clamp, clean your tips, blah, 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 weld prep, all that. Turns out you'll get a much better weld if you just get in the habit of every time you go out to mess with your welder, you check those things. Okay.
Cool. Let's get everything switched around and he'll give his thoughts and opinions on what he thinks.
Be right back.
Alright, so now my dad's going to try out the MIG170 set on 220 with 030 flux core. He's going to talk a little bit between the differences or the similarities between the Matco welding hood as well as the Lincoln and give his overall thoughts on it as well as the welder. Dad, all you.
Okay, Okay, here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run Justin's machine, that titanium, and he has a different welding hood than I do. His is by Matco. Mine is kind of a generic hood. It's got auto darkening, it's got grinding mode. I was just talking to him before we got on camera. I don't use it in grinding mode because I've got different pairs of safety glasses with different tints on them. I got them when I was plasma cutting, and I've got them for welding and whatever else. So I use those too, I mean, if I'm doing a lot of grinding, but yes, you can use these hoods. This is mine. Let me just show you real quick. And it'll auto darken. Okay, so nothing fancy here. This was what they sell out of Air Gas. Okay, now switch over to Justin's hood. First of all, I can tell you it's a lot more lightweight than mine. Mine seems a little heavy, but I have the adjustment knobs and all that stuff, which is fine. So let's turn it around. Okay, now using his, it's a lot lighter. It feels more comfortable actually. So I'm going to take it whether it's Matco or Miller. If you buy one of those brands, they put a lot more emphasis on their quality and on their state-of-the-art kind of stuff. But I'm not eager to go out and buy another one because a good one is going to run you probably $100 and higher unless you get it on sale or something. And you want it with the auto darkening. Those are my only comments. And then you can tweak it on the inside of all of these, and I'll show you if I can here. There are adjustment knobs, so depending on if you're outside, you're in your garage or whatever, you can tweak these. Okay? It's your choice. Just get a good one. Don't get a cheap one. You're not going to be happy with it. They malfunction real easy. There's lots of issues. I would tell you, save your money, get a good name brand one, and that's what I would go with. Let's try the Matco. We're going to try his titanium. I'm not wearing any welding sleeves. We're doing very short spurts. Now, if I was, I would have leather welding sleeves on. I would have a cap on probably, and along with this, and of course gloves. And on gloves, get yourself a good pair. You don't buy the cheap pair, okay? You're going to be disappointed or you're going to burn the hell out of your hands. I have a pair that's like super thick, like cowhide material. I don't like them, but they serve a purpose. If I'm using my oxyacetylene and the metal gets hot, or I'm MIG welding and the metal gets hot, it won't burn through and burn your hands. But there are other good MIG gloves out there where you've got better dexterity when moving your hands than with these big, thick cowhide ones. I tell you to get both. I mean, if you can afford it, they're not that expensive.
Real
Justin
briefly,
said he paid $20 for his Lincoln Electric. That's a good deal. And they're good gloves. I'm going to try them. And I'm able to move my hands much more freely than I'm going to show you, so hold on. First of all, these are welding sleeves. If I was going to use them, you just put your hand through there like this, okay? It protects you from getting sunburn like all hell, and from all the splatter hitting you and burning you and you yelling ouch while you're welding, okay? Then I would put my gloves on. Now, the gloves I wanted to show you real quick, I've had this pair for a very long time. And you can see where they've all been burned up and everything else, but nothing has burned through them because they're incredibly thick. Your hand movement is like you're bending concrete almost. So when I put one of these on, I mean, it's hard, even like right here for me to bend these fingers. It's so stiff. But if I had to grab a piece of hot steel and walk it over to a hose or something, this is your best friend. That's simple. Now, MIG welding, I would tell you get both, like I said, and get the sleeves. These things are inexpensive. They're going to save you a lot of headache, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put his shield on. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to make a little weld on that same piece of scrap metal. I'm going to use his helmet, his gloves, and I'll get right back to you. I got my camera rolling. Justin and I are sitting here jibber-jabbering about bullshit, really. I go, but I'm going to tell you a funny story because he triggered something in my mind for a minute. See, I'm all geared up and ready. Story first. Then you get the tips. Here's the story. This jerk-off writes me an email because he doesn't want to post it because I suppose he's stupid. And he said, hey, look, I watched one of your videos. He goes, that's such basic knowledge. I don't even know why you did the video, but okay, thanks a lot for wasting 10 minutes of my life watching your crap. Okay. Well, here's an interesting thought. I didn't tell you to watch the whole 10 minutes, so sorry you wasted 10 minutes of your life, but apparently you found it interesting enough to watch the whole 10 minutes according to your email to me. Second of all, I wrote you back and I put the simplest solution without cussing or saying anything bad is just don't watch. It's real simple. You don't need to leave me negative comments, just don't watch it. I really don't care. But there are plenty of people out there that go, hey, I forgot about that, or hey, I'd like to try that. And if I repeat it and it bothers you, well, quit watching. I repeat it so that I keep bringing it to the surface in your mind. Anyway, I wrote this guy back. Told him, quit watching. He turns around and writes me 2 more paragraphs in an email going, I'll watch what I want. You can't tell me what to do. It's YouTube. Legally, I can do this. And I'm like, okay, this guy definitely is like a nut job, you know. So, and then he went on to complain, you know. And I turned around and I wrote him a 3rd time. I go, okay, look, quit sending me your bullshit email. I don't really care what you think. Very brief returns. And he wrote me another long one saying, you know, I can email you when I want. And I emailed him one more time. First of all, I'm blocking you because you are basically, you're a nut. Second of all, let me explain to you what a fucking moron you are. You told me I wasted 10 minutes of your life, but I'll bet you wasted 30 to 45 minutes of your life wanting to argue with me through email before I blocked you. So, another person from the shallow end of the gene pool. All right, that's my story. Now, let's go ahead and let me check this thing out and let's just see what happens. So I'm sitting down.
Oh, you can. Sorry to interrupt. You can go ahead and adjust the settings. I would change them because the spatter patter wasn't all that good, and maybe turn it up or whatever.
Well, here, you come and adjust it.
I don't know which one you want.
I was going to just test it the way it is and go from there.
So here, let's set you at about 5 maybe for wire speed, 5 for the voltage maybe, and keep this at around 5 for smoothing out. I don't know what these other things are either. This 4T, 2T, you know what that is?
Look at your manual.
I didn't know if you had that on yours.
Well, mine is the difference in guns if you're working with aluminum or not.
Alright, cool. Rock and roll.
We're just talking, and he said his titanium, all 3 knobs, he'll explain them to you in a little bit. I'm not familiar with the titanium MIG welder, but he set everything to 5 to keep everything consistent. So we're going to try it with everything set at 5. Okay, so here's another word of advice. It's a quick tip. I was over at a friend of mine's, and he's welding, and he's welding in the most uncomfortable positions. Anytime you can make yourself comfortable, even if you're going hand over hand, or however, it doesn't matter. Don't listen to people on these channels tell you you have to do it like this, and you have to do things a certain way when you are using your hand as a bridge. Make yourself comfortable, and that's whatever works for you. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to stand up, and then I'm going to bend down. And I'll have Justin tilt the camera down right now, so there'll be a little bit of a pause here so that you're able to see what I'm doing. So, hang on. All right, here we go. Get it done. Cut that off, and then we do it again. Better, but hold on a minute.
Maybe try to adjust that smoothing factor. That's the 3rd knob over. Turning it down unsmooths it. Turning it up makes it smoother, from what I'm told.
What's the middle one do?
That's your voltage, and then your wire speed should be far left.
I'm not liking that, whatever the hell I did. Okay, so I just finished this demo with Justin's titanium. Here's a few thoughts. Okay, is it powerful as that Miller 211? No, but it does more than an adequate job for welding on this steel. Initially, he had it set at all fives, all three dials. He'll go through those with you at a later time before in one of these videos and explain to you what each knob's for. One's for wire speed, the other's for voltage, and one's for smoothness or something like that. So I'm unfamiliar with it, but what I did is I let him set it at all fives and I went ahead and used it. It worked okay. I thought things were going a little bit slow. So then, like with even my welder, even with the auto set, I started tweaking it. I kicked the wire feed up to about 6.5. What determines that? Well, it determines how comfortable you are at welding that particular project. In other words, do I want the wire to come out faster? Do I want a hotter weld? I mean, it's not welding hot enough. It's not, I know I'm not getting good penetration, so I can increase the amperage, voltage amperage on this machine, and I believe that's what the other knob was for because there was a noticeable difference. Smoothness, I really can't comment on one way or the other. I don't have that on my Miller-Matic, but I played around with it too. So the final settings for me, I had about 6.5 and about 5.5, a little bit closer to 6 on the knob for the voltage part of this, and the smoothness, I just kind of left it where it was. Now, it made a difference to me, okay, and it's what worked for me, was to increase those settings. And then I felt like, okay, it's coming out at a speed that I'm comfortable with welding at, and it's coming out with a good penetration because it's like sizzling bacon. I could hear it sizzle a little bit more or a little bit more pronounced. So I knew I was probably getting better penetration, and what you didn't see is I stopped, flipped it over, looked. Yes, it is. So for all intents and purposes at home and in and around the garage and what have you, I think the welder performed perfectly fine. Now on these gloves, I like them because I can actually do this. On those thick rawhide ones, I'm lucky if these two fingers now, maybe it's from the years of use, I cannot bend them all the way down. Serves a purpose. These are great gloves, 20 bucks. Like he said, he stopped and got them at Home Depot. Now, if you're using flux cord, it works really good if you're outside welding a gate or somewhere where there might be a little bit of a breeze because there's nothing blowing away the shielding gas. I have flux cord. It's kind of rare that I use it because most of the welding that I do in the shop is on projects and stuff, and there really is no air movement. Now, that being said for a minute, be careful when you're welding. You get down there on top of this thing and you're welding, you're also breathing those fumes and wondering why you're blowing black soot out through your nose at the end of the day. So what I would recommend you use is, this is a vapor mask, and I got it off Amazon. I'll try to remember to leave the link below. It's inexpensive, and it's a vapor mask as well as a particulate mask. It's made by Miller. I paid a little bit more than one of those little paper masks you put on, which you're still going to breathe the toxic fumes, even if it filters out those particulates. This one filters everything out, vapors included. so that you're not breathing them. You might get away with it today because you're just welding a couple simple things, but it's not good for you. Get yourself a good respirator. They're not that expensive, but don't buy a cheap one. Okay, there's one other tip I wanted to tell you. With Justin's clamp, okay, right here. This clamp's actually better, I think, than the one that came with my Miller. Don't ask me why I made the same comment. They make super high-end, super quality machines. You know, you got Miller, Lincoln, well, Titanium, and there's other machines, Hobart, all these machines. They make really good machines. Then they put the cheapest piece of shit clamp on them that they can find. And that was the reason why a buddy of mine goes, why don't you change your clamp? You're going to notice a difference. And I thought, BS, you know, and I ignored him for a while because I got by. The moment I changed the clamp, I went over to that real thick Harbor Freight one and I used a discount coupon and I finally buckled in and bought one and put it on. He's 100% right. I was wrong. I'm glad that I bought it. This clamp is good. It'll serve a purpose right now anytime he goes to use it. In time, my suggestion is the same to him. Upgrade your clamp. You won't go wrong. The ones out at Harbor Freight, like I said, they're not all junk. It's a fantastic clamp. Hold on. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, here's the one from Harbor Freight. And with the discount, I think I paid like $8 or $9. I don't remember. Anyway, this thing is incredibly strong. One hand. And this thing really clamps down hard. It's got the corrugation, all the things I said in the other video. This is a good substitute if you want to change out your clamp. Okay, hang in there for a few minutes and I think we're going to do a little conclusion here on the video. Bear with us for just a sec. I'm going to get a couple things set up. I'll be right back.
I know. I meant to hit record, had an absent mind. I thought I did. I didn't, but look, that's okay. My dad didn't. He made sure to record it. It's going to be on his channel. I'll share the link to his channel down in the description. Guys, if you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up. Share it if you want to share. Thanks as always for watching. I hope you learned something today, and if nothing else, I hope you enjoyed today's content. I've got other videos coming up that my dad and I did. Man, we were on a total guy roll. We just did man stuff all day. I think I needed that. It was actually really enjoyable. Not only did I learn a lot, but I got a chance to hang out with my dad, and it's just a great feeling, man. It's so good to be able to hang out with him again. You know, it takes time. He's got work, I got work, we got families. It's hectic scheduling. But we finally had the time to do it today, which was awesome. Future videos to come. So he actually showed me how to hook up, set up, different types of tips, and the different procedures that you need to know. Going into the oxy and acetylene torch setup, he showed me how to hook up MIG gas. So later I'll be doing a video on how to set up the MIG gas setup for the titanium MIG170, as well as share his thoughts on how to purge it and other things like that in a video. We got videos about the different types of wire that you can choose from, whether it's flux core or MIG, and then the differences between like made in China versus made in USA. So that's going to be in a video too. We're going to talk about tools. We're going to talk about side projects. There's going to be a lot of content between my channel and his channel over the course of the next week. So please go over to his channel, subscribe, watch, enjoy. Thanks as always for watching. Thank you for your ongoing support. And we'll see you guys next time. Doses.